I did make a couple of small corrections right before we came on here, but you didn't see, but the action item, or for Lori Yates FDSC proposals, it wasn't the ratification of the ISS bylaws. Remove that from the minute, so here's that up. And other than that, if there are other changes to the minutes that might need to be. Okay, all those in favor, can I have a motion anymore?
So moved.
I have a motion to approve the minutes as amended. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. And the abstention. Thank you very much. Okay, so old business that we have is the FDSC proposal. If you remember correctly, Lori Yates, the chair of FDSC, brought forward a couple of possibilities to make changes to the travel funds. And so we discussed those and they're coming forward as action items. There are two things to look at. So they have they proposed awards and funding limit changes, which is the document that has only just one page. The top of it is the original awards and funding limits. The bottom part of it is their proposed changes. Those are based on whether we take option 1 or option 2 of the reimbursement policy and priority changes. So what I need from Senate is, well, yes, John?
I was presuming you were going to say you needed a motion.
I was going to say we need a motion to approve, but I would assume we need a motion to either approve option 1 or option 2.
That would be part of my motion.
Yeah, okay, let's see what kind of motion we get.
I move that the Senate approve option 2 of the proposed reimbursement and policy priority changes. And since there's only one option in the awards and funding limits, I propose also that be approved as needed.
So I have a motion to approve option 2 and the proposed award funding limits. Do I have a second? Was that you, Carrie?
It was. Sorry I interrupted.
Are you seconding?
Yes, I'm seconding.
Awesome. Okay, discussion.
We're done talking about it.
I think we've talked
Who are
about
you people?
Just for clarification, so the funding stays at $2,000?
I have another motion on that. That's not in these motions.
So as we're approving the funding limit, we're not approving the funding limit.
Well, we're approving the proposals say that the amount to be funded will be determined by the beginning of the year and
That's right.
announced. And then the funds up to the allocation would be dispersed. So,
That's correct.
answer your question, Charles? Any further discussion? I worry about you. Okay. All those in favor of the motion to approve option 2 and the only option under proposed awards and funding limits, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. And any abstentions? Charles is abstaining, and so that one passes. Yes, John?
I have a further motion on the same topic.
Sure.
Because of just what Charles brought up, that we don't have funding limits and we requested, and FDSC really needs that. I move that the chair of the FDC and the faculty senate consult with the appropriate leaders of the faculty union and administration to set a maximum funding limit for the FDSC so they may proceed with their work.
So the chair of FDC and the Senate president to consult to set a limit by what time?
We need it at, before June 30th because we'll start receiving requests right away.
Okay. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Any further conversation? Questions? Clarifications? Discussion? Arguments? Anything?
One armrest?
I presume those discussions are based on knowledge of what the total amount of the package is going to be by that time?
I would presume so.
Theoretically, our contract has been extended to June 30th, and so one would assume
that we have some idea of the new contract before June 30th.
And I brought this up because FDFC really can't proceed until we have some idea of what that limit is. And that can't be set until the union administration set it. So we're sort of stuck without that.
And are you proposing this chair, FDFC, and Senate consult to be a one-time deal for this year?
Yeah, I just consulted for this motion. We'll probably regularize it in some way as we go forward.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? All those in favor of said motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Abstentions? Any nays up there? Okay, awesome. That passes as well. Did you get that, Shonda? Cool. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the work on that. That's been a difficult thing, but worked out really well. If you see in the agenda, there's several things on information items. So these are things that have gone through the university council. Well, the first couple are. We don't need to do anything with them, but they're just there for our information items. The space lease agreement is there. Tana, she come yet? She was going to come. Didn't think we were going to move this too quickly, so she'll probably pop in here in the next 5 or 10 minutes. But you may have looked. There's a administrative faculty career honor policy that they're putting forward to honor individuals who have been in administrative faculty for a period of time. So if you have questions about that when Tana comes, you can ask about that. And then I just wanted to point out that our Senate response to the draft sustainability plan is posted in the Senate documents. So I just wanted to point those out. Okay? Excellent. So, PCC. Donna, would you like to join us, please?
I'm in her chair, aren't
Okay. I believe English writing is first on the agenda, is that correct? Okay. So the English writing program has reduced its concentrations to one major with an embedded English minor and keeping the interdisciplinary writing and rhetoric minor. I think for more comprehensive details, David, did you come to speak about it? I don't see Nancy.
First person in the world who could ask.
Your name's on the paperwork.
Oh, all right. All right.
He's going to deliver it. Who is he?
I've come unprepared. Do you guys want to ask me any questions, or do you want me to hold forth about it? We've tried to simplify our program as much as we could and make it as efficient for students to get through the program in 4 years. We have limited our electives, and basically our students will know what they can take term by term, and it'll be very limited, and they will get through without a lot of excess choices in the spirit of the times we're living. Yes, sir.
So I'm looking at what we have in front of us, and we have course changes and course deletions and new courses and program changes. And I assume that those come together as a piece to do what you're proposing.
That's exactly what I always have.
Okay, me too.
Could I ask?
Yes.
Do you think it's premature for us to act on this or even discuss this until the implications of the sustainability plan are known next week?
We did the best we could do under the circumstances to anticipate our loss of FTE. And we are actively, week by week, whittling away at our offerings and honing this down so that we will be able to respond effectively to the sustainability plan, but also offer our major. Yes, short answer, yes.
May I add that we're already actively scheduling next year, so to address this program because we won't have enough faculty to do the old program.
And those faculty members are already gone. I mean, these aren't, well,
Through attrition.
some of those, like for Jennifer's position and Heidi's position.
Right. Mark.
And Mark.
Donald.
Retirement. Donald's moved.
Yeah. We could go on and on, yes. Lots of that.
Do I hear a motion to approve the English program, English writing changes?
So moved.
Moved?
Seconded.
Okay. Other questions for David?
Well, I do have some concerns about the idea that a proposal will go through now, and next week we will hear about their response. I mean, they made a response, obviously, to the sustainability plan. And I would feel much better about moving on a curriculum item like this, that
That wasn't me.
the issues of staffing are complete and have been, I mean, that the administration has rigorously looked at their proposal, the response to the sustainability plan. They've come back with their,
Our response to the sustainability plan was a defense of the new program, explaining how it met the goals of the sustainability plan. And I was going to add that when we met with the interim provost and interim dean, our conversation ended with a question: have we addressed the issues you wanted us to address in the sustainability plan? And they said yes. Sarah
And you're
said
speaking
yes.
of this proposed
Indeed,
program.
this proposed program. Am I, does this seem like reality, what I'm saying?
It's pretty much what I understand from the meetings we've had.
Further?
Do you feel the cuts are too deep?
Are you trying to speak with us, Regina? Or?
Oh, I just said, and do you feel the cuts are too deep?
I think the cuts are too deep.
The cuts are too deep.
Well,
Is that a
Melanie Rose
question?
wouldn't say so.
That's the truth.
Was the question, are the cuts too deep?
Yes.
Oh, are the cuts too deep? It's a question for you, David.
Whose cuts are you talking about exactly?
Within the major.
I mean, I won't speak for the entire program on that issue. Whether the cuts are too deep, I suppose, is in the eye of the beholder. How's that for a diplomatic response?
Yes? Then all those in favor of this motion say aye.
Aye.
The enthusiasm, exactly. All those opposed say nay. Abstentions? 1, 2, 3. 3 abstentions. Thank you, motion passes. Okay, then the next item, Shauna.
Okay, the next item is a program change in math. Previously, you'll remember I was here for the media arts program changes, which were approved by EPCC and then modified at Faculty Senate. So the media arts minor came through here before. This program change acknowledges that there's space for a media arts minor in it. And it also, the major changes that are made on the course list are to break one course into 2. So I'm not sure which one is which, but communication law and communication ethics are new titles. One of those goes under an old course listing at 3 credits each. And so the total, if you have the correct list, should be 47 for the program requirements, and then 15 for elective courses, which makes 62. On the course change, or the request to change program action form, which was unfortunately delivered late, the only thing that's different is that after revision requested by EPCC, instead of total credit hours and proposed program being 66, it would be 62.
So the COM 385 and the COM 395 are 3 credits, not 4 credits?
Yes, so you may have the wrong, that was I contacted Shonda this morning, we had the wrong form up there.
And then I just sent an email to you all like 10 minutes before the meeting, so I'm sure you didn't get it.
Yeah.
But the EPCC paperwork for program change didn't come to me until like about 2:40, 2:45. So we didn't have that paperwork before the meeting, so I just want to point that out there.
It was on the May 13th EPCC agenda where I was absent due to a death in my family, and so there's been some communication issues. But basically, the change form was there, has been there, it just didn't get moved forward.
So,
Excuse me to interrupt, but could somebody invite Rebecca Hartman to the meeting, please?
I'm going to do that now, Michael.
Thank you.
I thought she was.
I had invited her, but she didn't get in, so I'm going to send her the URL.
Okay, thank you. Tana, just to let you know, we've already gone past that. There were no questions.
Oh, okay.
You're good to go. What are your shortest visions ever?
Well, thank you everyone for asking.
Yeah.
Madam Chairman, is it possible to post on the Hangout to share the document with the Senate?
I'll ask John if he can do that after he gets Rebecca onto this sort of thing. Which way is mine?
Yes. Yeah.
What did you need?
Okay, so the link that you just posted, correct? Is
Well,
it
I
on your-
sent an email. Can you check your email, John?
I'm sure I have it, because I saw it come across.
So I sent an email to everybody right before I got here.
Is
So
this
that's
one right
this-
here?
Yes.
That one doesn't have an attachment.
It's not an attachment, I
It's a
just
link.
forwarded the email. So there's a link,
Right here.
Yeah.
that link there.
EPCC agenda.
And that was the EPCC paper. Can you scroll it down a little bit?
Yes.
Thank you.
So the number on the right should be 62 instead of 66.
The number on the right.
Total credit hours in proposed program should be 62 rather than 66.
I see, so
It was
it
revision.
should say 62.
Yeah, it should say 62. That's the only change.
So other than the two comm classes, the 385 and the 395 go down to 3 credits.
There was an addition error also.
There is an addition error.
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay.
So folks, remote, this is what we were looking at. I just shared it on the screen.
So John, can you scroll down through to there too? Because there's the explanation of the program change.
Sure. Tell me what.
So, well, yeah, I don't think you can get it all. Yeah, so you can't get it all on one shot.
Okay.
So do I have a motion to approve these changes?
I have a statement that I would like to read prior to any motion.
Generally,
Prior
it's
to
a
the-
motion and a second and then discussion. Yeah.
Out of order.
So
The motion to
Second.
approve and a second. Okay, so comments or conversation, Kevin?
Yeah, I have a statement with regard to the proposal that has been moving through the process. And I think that there are, myself and other faculty have expressed some concerns with this curriculum with regard to the changes, the exclusions of courses, the pretty severe, what I would call pretty severe change to the Media Arts Communication program that I would like to address. I have a statement, and it begins with noting some of the merits of this proposal with regard to the program and some concerns that I think are pretty important that I would like recorded. The first problem, I believe, that this curriculum exacerbates the digital divide between our rural and economically challenged students, the so-called have-nots and the haves of more urban and affluent populations in the state. This is a well-known socio-political phenomenon where, you say on the west side you have a contingent of students access to technology, and what's being proposed here in this curriculum is actually the removal, fairly significant removal of any media communication technologies out of the experience of the program. And in other words, this curriculum will further disadvantage, in my estimation, our students. This curriculum is not in line. This curriculum is not in line with any with the top 5 accreditation organizations in the area of communications, and I'm happy to name those. And all of those accreditation bodies are very explicit in their inclusion of media communication technology and digital literacy and those kinds of studies. This curriculum does not adhere to any of those things that have been put forth. Further, this curriculum limits the scope of the MAC program by excising important media technology and theory courses out of the curriculum. We are all aware that important digital and computer literacies will be required for all of our graduates, and most certainly students who are majoring in media arts and communication. As I brought forth in the EPCC meeting, this curriculum comes nowhere close to aligning with the outcomes or description of the MAC program in the current or any past EAU catalog. I think that's significant. This proposed curriculum comes nowhere close to matching any of our comparator institutions, nor is it informed by any other media arts and communication program, or any other programs that are just called communications. And finally, this proposal is not in response to last year's sustainability plan, in my estimation. Nowhere in last year's sustainability plan does it say that such drastic revisions of core required courses should be undertaken. In fact, the plan references the core as part of the MAC program, and it in fact directs that I teach additional courses in the media arts and communication major, given, quote, my increased capacity with the loss of 3 concentrations in the MAC program. Further, I actually revised my courses to more seamlessly fit into the MAC major. Courses like communication design, video, new media communication, and web development were established and repeatedly presented to the MAC program faculty with not a single response. There is no reason why a course like Foundations in New Media Communication should be included and should not be included in the MAC curriculum. New media communication. With regard to the integrity of the program approval policies that are in place at the state level, it should be understood clearly that the program was approved by the state as media arts. The name change a few years ago to Media Arts and Communication was largely for marketing purposes and in recognition of the disciplinary convergences brought about by ever-advancing media communication technologies. What's being presented here is a complete overhaul away from what was originally approved and what is reflected in the EOU catalog. And lastly, as I mentioned, I believe the administration is not listening to this streamcast right now to see if Faculty Senate agrees with the academic merits of this proposal, which are certainly flawed. The administration is acutely aware of the importance of the MAC program to our region and students. My students have been very outspoken on that. Dr. Witt spearheaded the approval of the Media Arts program with many faculty. And I believe they're waiting to see if the bifurcation of our successful MAC program initiated last year through purely divisive and conflicting directives issued to me and my colleagues will allow the administration to excise and eliminate my position as a tenured faculty member out of the program that I've been a part of for the past 10 years. I believe if they're allowed to do that, it should serve as a warning to faculty, because by their logic, none of us have any seniority in any of our programs. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions for?
Can I make a comment?
Go ahead, Rebecca.
Oh, you can hear me? I apologize for coming in late. Yeah, I have 2 points to make about this curriculum, and I think that Kevin's comments are very cogent and really speak to one of my 2 comments. And I think in addition, Neil's email to us, to the Senate, is equally relevant. I was curious when I saw this paperwork, and I began to look around at other universities. I don't have expertise myself in communications or media arts, but I'm very concerned that this is not, in fact, a communications major, as it is laid out in front of us. Neil said, I think his words were that it's a speech major. And I think that that's a problem. But more importantly, is my second point is I think that this is, to be blunt, an academic version of gerrymandering. This is an attempt to, intentional or not, to circumvent the contract and layoff order. It's presented as changes that are due as a response to the sustainability plan, but the sustainability plan argues that, or claims that it itself is based on these curricular changes. I think this is, I think it's a low point for Eastern, and I understand that we're all under tremendous pressure, and we are doing the best that we can to keep our programs in place, but this looks like circumventing processes that are put in place, both in the ethics of academia and in our contract, and I could in no way support this.
Thank you, Rebecca.
That's all I have to say right now.
Madam Chairman, may we invite April and Joey to represent the program, please?
We didn't know that we were starting to vote for a talk. We thought we were second.
You are.
But
We've already
It's been a
gone
swift
through.
meeting.
This is a very quick.
We can't hear. I'm sorry, but I would appreciate it if perhaps the mic could be moved closer.
The
April,
presenter will move
are
to the
you-
table.
Did you want to come to the table and comment?
Yeah, I mean, I just didn't hear what just happened, so. Shall we, everyone?
There's a motion to approve the MAC changes in a second, and we'll be go ahead and making commentaries.
What MAC changes are exactly on the agenda for today, though? There's only those 2 deletions, or are they all slated?
It's the program changes that the paperwork wasn't, yeah, so
the ones
what
on the
was
agenda
up
are
there,
the
yeah,
entire slate.
there's-
That's Kevin's comments. Okay.
yes. So there's whatever these program changes is, that's the part, that was the motion. So, do you want to make a statement in support of changes, or what are you wanting?
But as I said, I didn't just see this last bit at all. I guess, so what's the motion on the table right now?
To approve the MAC change, program changes.
And I'm trying to decide if I have written something, and I wondered if you would be willing to listen to it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to tell you what I know as few as I can, and then our program will rest in your hands. A few years ago, a dean asked me to develop communication minor for EOU. I taught speech courses for many years, been hired in '92 to teach speech and theater at EOU. So with the help of some willing colleagues, we created the minor over a year or so. It would be very popular. It seemed like students wanted to study how to connect with other people. Comm concentration was created as we grouped together with colleagues in media arts. It was a funky, seemingly random, yet fascinating set of disciplines to join together. And we created the concentration out of what was available at EOU at that time. At times, we struggled to find the reasons why media arts and journalism and digital media and communication might fit together. But we proceeded. We hired a PhD in communication. We made plans, we made statements, we created goals. We made a mission statement, and finally we became this amazingly creative, functional, dysfunctional quartet that the students seemed to be drawn to in numbers, so we grew. I believe it was because students could envision those connections even more than we could. So it was cool. The plan of 2013 lopped 3 feet off the MAC stool. From 4 concentrations, we reduced to a comm major and minor and a media arts minor. The cuts were definite, and some of us felt bereft, and others of us felt relieved. Next, we went to the provost to find out how we would survive in our diminished condition. He gave each of us a charge. 1, create a strong comm-centric major and minor, and 2, create a strong media arts-centric minor. So for the summer, each group went off and we did that. Comm faculty, Jen, Bonnie, Curtis, worked on the comm part, and Professor Roy worked on the media arts part. We were excited to see what was created by each group. In the summer, early fall, we rolled out our drafts, and MACCOM continued to meet about the design of the curriculum through the fall and the winter in 11 different meetings as Professor Roy worked on his program. The MACCOM invited all of the colleagues in media arts and communication, including Professor Roy, to 11 of MACCOM meetings to determine if there might be some connection left. Professor Roy attended 3 of those meetings despite many invitations, and each of those meetings was somewhat rancorous and unproductive, and I have a record of these meetings here. In the opinion of MAC faculty, the rancor was primarily about putting media arts courses into the requirements of MACCOM. Since Professor Roy did not and does not teach any media arts courses other than capstones, we decided to keep our requirements comm-centric. His courses were at that point multimedia, which is, quote, a concentration whose students are prepared to design and develop multimedia products. We believe these courses better fit into our elective paths, and we informed him of this on many occasions. The comm-centric program was created with student input and interdisciplinary paths, and the elective is a way to speak about these connections. The electives contain 3 courses in multimedia and 1 course in media arts. The 3 of us in comm sent our paperwork to the EPCC in February. On March 31st, I received this email from Professor Roy. I've had a chance to review the comm posted changes that you put forth, and I have some additions I would like to make. It is the belief of the MACCOM faculty that with the elimination of the media arts minor in the draft plan, a Hail Mary pass was developed to insert thinly veiled multimedia courses into the comm required courses in the hope that seniority may save a position. While we are not at all happy about the potential elimination of the media arts minor, another program that could serve students, and understand the precarious position of our colleagues at EOU, we continue to believe that multimedia courses belong in our electives, and that our faculty are also teaching courses that have multimedia embedded within them, and media arts, plain and simple. So I've been told, think about what you're doing. Okay, you have the power to do the right thing, and what is the right thing? I am a teacher. I'm not a character who keeps a finger in a dike, holding back a tide that has long since drowned the villagers. I want to go on record. The film program should be saved. The minor should be retained. I'm not in favor of the elimination. Perhaps a compromise could be that media arts or multimedia or whatever it is could be housed in English writing or another place. Great. However, we in MatCom want to keep the integrity of our program strong, because by our standards and by the standards of other university programs that we have looked at over time, our job is to serve students. This program before you serves students, so you decide.
Other comments? Oh. I'll do Corey and then Corey first. But you need to come to the table so that it can be heard by the mic, please. Okay.
Do you want to email your statement to Shonda so that it can be included in the
Yeah.
So I emailed this out to senators earlier today, and I guess I first want to say I'm sorry that I didn't make this argument earlier. I've been on sabbatical, as many of you know, and frankly, I couldn't have imagined that this curriculum would pass at EPCC. In addition to the lack of program meetings in CAS for the past couple years in general, we're here, and I'm having to make this argument now. I have a very different memory of the philosophy of the formation of communication and where it's housed. And forgive me, I'm just going to read this so that it's as coherent as I can make it. In 2007 and 2008, I served on the committee that was charged with proposing this new communication minor. Also on that committee were Carrie Lowen, Neil Gustafson, David Comito, Sandy Elston, Greg Monahan, Jerry Ramey, and April Curtis. The two key issues under discussion at the time were, one, the philosophy and curricular focus of such a minor, and two, its location, where a new minor in communication might be housed. On the first question, and I'm not going to say that there weren't differences of opinion among this group of faculty, of course there were, but we agreed that this minor in communication would need to serve a wide pool of interested students, including, as Professor Curtis wrote at the time, students representing both sides of the communication world, the business mode and the more artistic mode. This included students who were interested in film and television, as April argued, and as Neil argued, students who would be expected to produce a wide range of media in their future careers, from newsletters to videos to websites and other digital and multimedia texts. And I believe Neil has also written a letter to this effect. Reviewing the National Communication Association outcomes and communication programs at comparator institutions confirmed what most of us already knew, that multiple domains of communication were converging in the 21st century, and that anyone leaving college with a degree in communication would be expected to work within a rapidly evolving digital communication landscape. This was not news. This was fundamental to the discussion of the formation of a minor in communication. Given this, it made obvious philosophical sense to house the proposed communication minor in media arts, where critical expertise and courses were already located. Importantly, and I think this is a really important matter for Faculty Senate to be aware of, importantly, however, housing communication and media arts also came about due to then Provost Yeager's unwillingness to take a new program to the state for approval. Instead, he directed the committee to move communication into an existing program to avoid having to do that, and to avoid having to argue for a new and separate program. It would simply be easier, the committee was told, if this new minor and later new concentration built on the common core of courses in media arts that were already directly relevant to the field. Another major concern that was voiced at the time was that a new program would likely not pass at the state level because none of the faculty had terminal degrees in communication, and was pointed out at the time, it relied too heavily on a resource faculty person who was working from a distance. There were all sorts of arguments made why this minor needed to be housed within media arts, both philosophically and in terms of resources. Ultimately, it made much more sense to argue for the inclusion of the new interdisciplinary communication minor into the media arts program, which recognized the ongoing convergence of digital communications and possessed the expertise, staffing capacity, and courses students interested in communication would need. Today, however, 2 faculty members are arguing to remake the media arts program that was originally approved by the state to represent a very different and a very narrow version of communication only, stripping out the Common Core of courses around which the program was built and eliminating all courses in digital communication, despite 1, a clear conflict with their own professional organizations, all of whom recognize digital communication as an essential part of the field, 2, a lack of parity with comparator institutions, 3, the future career needs and desires of their own students. At the same time, their increasing need for a fixed-term faculty member without a terminal degree in order to exclude the expertise of a tenured faculty member who spent a decade building the program and has recently redesigned multiple courses to focus even more specifically on communication. It would seem that if a small group of faculty members now wants a separate communication major, narrowly defined to exclude critical elements of their own field and in opposition of the philosophical foundations on which it was brought into EOU in the first place, they need to go through the proper channels. They need to go back to the state and argue for such a thing to exist. It seems fundamentally unacceptable to me for Faculty Senate to be asked to approve such a manipulation of the curriculum, in effect to excise the original focus of a program as it was approved by the state to support a, quote, new curricular direction that neither meets longstanding program outcomes nor reflects the underlying philosophy and disciplinary foundations of the program that was actually approved. Of course, it also seems fundamentally unacceptable for a tenured faculty member to be manipulated out of his own program and position out of layoff order, as was suggested in the draft sustainability plan, because other faculty members within that program appear to have taken a new curricular direction. By this logic, and this is really important, I mean, clearly I have a personal stake in this issue, but I think the principles here and what the Senate is being asked to vote on are incredibly important. By this logic, any of us could be argued out of our own program because suddenly there was a new majority of faculty who no longer valued what we do. That is fundamentally unacceptable for how we operate as an institution. If we want to go back to a point where we don't value tenure, we don't value seniority, we operate without a contract and people can be picked off at will based on changing circumstances, you know, fine. But I don't think that's how we want to operate as a faculty. I don't think that serves any of us well. If decisions about program and staffing reductions must be made, I believe Senate is called upon to stand up for tenure and make the case that programs facing reductions will have to be redesigned around remaining faculty once proper layoff order has been followed. Attempting to cut senior faculty out of their own programs in the midst of program reductions would seem an abuse of the curricular approval process at best. On these grounds, and with the greatest respect for all of my colleagues, I would ask that the Faculty Senate deny the proposed changes to the Media Arts and Communication program, or at the very least, table this discussion on a curricular matter so that it can be debated fairly outside of the rushed and fraught context of program eliminations and retrenchment. Thank you.
You must be a writer.
Here.
Hi everybody, I want to address my concern for my communication program. Sorry, I just finished my class. Okay. When I was hired as communication faculty to East Ark University, and I reviewed the communication program course offering, and I'm deeply concerned about the hodgepodge nature of the curriculum. And I have told my colleagues earlier in 2012, I said we need to overhaul, revamp this program to have the curriculum cohesiveness, coherence, synergy, and distinct identity. So we need to reduce some redundancy and to make the curriculum to complete each other and to help students to focus on communication studies. So we review the national seminar program, and we also review the National Communication Association's recommendation, and we come up with the course offering based on our expertise and based on our training in communication studies. And I realized that communication study has been founded on rhetorical studies, multimedia production, is not an integral part of communication studies. So to have a distinct communication program identity, we do not need to add too much technological production course in our communication studies. That's my first concern. And the second, when we reviewed this program, we asked us a very serious question. What kind of product benefit is the legitimate product benefits for the communication degree? When the communication student gets a communication degree, it's like they purchase a product. They want the legitimate product benefits. They don't want the fancy, snappy add-ons. So like, let me use a metaphor. You want to manufacture a treadmill, okay? What's the main purpose for a treadmill? Exercise. Recently, somebody proposed that let's add some, add a desktop to the treadmill so people can read the email, reply email on the treadmill, so they can exercise, they can do a lot of things. We think that kind of thing is not a legitimate product benefits for treadmill. Same thing to communication degree. We want our program to be focused on communication studies, and which is about sharing, understanding each other, and share meaning, and negotiate identity, meaning, and power relationship. And we, as a communication faculty, we also offered some media communication class in our curriculum, such as public relations, advertising, communication law, communication ethics, which is communication course, media communication courses. And we also realized that communication technology is important. So we propose to add a communication technology production course as elective in our course offering. We add 3 multimedia production courses in our elective. And also, I want the committee to think this is our first step to overhaul our program. We will further overhaul our program when we think necessary. So we cannot afford to waste time to put our program in mud. And let us move on. Let us move forward. And we might come back to review our program to add some multimedia product class later on in our, elective or our required course. But right now, we can only come up with this very good program plan. Don't let us waste our time. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? You come on in.
We have talked about this a great deal in English and writing. As you know, journalism used to be housed in English and writing, and slowly over a course of years, it was moved into the MAC. And some of our most successful students were journalism students. And in our new program, which you just passed, journalism is still a part of it. All right, and this is a pretty serious issue for us. We would like to see some kind of reconciliation between these sides. I have nothing but respect for my colleague, a longtime colleague, April, whom I have been teaching with for 24 years or so, right? And Corey, I have known virtually since I arrived here, before she had a PhD. And Kevin, I don't know as well, but I know his students well, and they have served our department in absolutely essential ways. And losing the synergy of all these groups working together is a really negative impact on our program and our students. I agree with what April was saying about our students, and she doesn't want to see filmmaking go away, right? And that it is an absolutely essential skill for our students. All of this blood that is all over the floors of our school is because of someone else's bad decision, and has pitted us each against the other. And this has gone on in venue after venue after venue this year, and has involved other departments. We really have to find a truce and try to put things back together as well as we possibly can. And you know, fighting to destroy one thing, fighting to destroy what you don't want to destroy is insane. And I would really ask you, senators, to try to intervene and reconcile the parties here and figure out if it's a compromise that's necessary. Great, let's have a compromise. But let's work together as a faculty, not against each other. It's absolutely crazy. And that's all I have to say. Sorry.
Any other conversation, Richard?
I'll try to make this really brief. It's clear that, you know, we've got the catalyst here is 3 years in a row of having three plans in 4 years telling us that we've got to shave this and shave that. And that's not a good environment. And certainly if there's any kind of personality differences, it's going to magnify it. But I concur with David. Some kind of, first of all, everyone concerned needs to think about why. You know, I've seen the hackles on everyone. It should be everyone working together. We don't seem to be doing too well at that. And yeah, I think that there could be some kind of a compromise, but I don't know if we get a chance to do it. So, Chancellor Rose is calling the shots here.
Well, I'd like to add to that. I mean, David, I appreciated your eloquent words. You sound like a dean, a good dean. And maybe a good dean would have been able to reconcile this. I think you're asking Senate to do something that is really beyond our powers. I would like to see these sides reconciled as well. I don't know that it's our place to do that. I think that we can vote to send the program changes back and encourage and invite the faculty to work together. I'm trying to listen to April and Jiawei and listen to what they're saying and try to hear that perspective. It's not clear to me. I keep thinking about Neil's letter, and I don't know if April and Jiawei had an opportunity to read that letter. But Neil's letter concerns me because he makes really substantive criticisms about the program changes and talks about it as a step forward or a step backward instead of a step forward. And I think that there's potential for this curriculum, but the way it stands now, I don't think it is going to serve our students, despite the fact that they may think that. I think that we're taking a step backward in terms of what we can offer, the opportunities that we have to offer students. I think Kevin's point was very important early on about the divide and how it's critical to our mission at Eastern and as educators to reach out to students who don't have access. I think this is still broken and it needs to be fixed. I don't think that we can fix it, but I would encourage you to find a way to work together. I hear Jiawei saying that communications faculty have decided that media arts or multimedia doesn't fit except for electives, but I haven't heard why. I haven't heard an argument as to why those courses don't fit. And what I hear from Kevin and from Neil are that those courses are actually critical to the current development of your discipline. And so I'm still not convinced that these changes are the best changes for your program or for our students.
Any new comments added? Scott and then Donna?
I'll just say, I don't know much about communications and media arts, But when the department is coming and 3 of the members of the department are deciding something and 1 is not, this is one side of it. I have to just kind of say, well, they must know what they're doing. The other side is the side that Corey brought up, the approval process and how communication kind of worked its way into this department. And now that department that was originally there is now being asked to separate. So I have a problem with that too. So those are kind of the 2 sides I have a problem with at this point. I think right now is a very emotional time. And I'm not moving, but I would suggest we maybe table this for further discussion over a longer period of time than just this meeting. I think there's too much at stake.
Donna, and then Susan?
I agree that I don't think we can make those decisions today, but I did have a couple questions that when we came back I'd like to know a little bit more about. And one would be, I heard both sides, if that's the word we're using, although I don't like that. I heard 2 different comments about it being the program is or is not following what other universities are doing. One said it is, one said it isn't. So I guess I would want to see more information about that. What are other universities? What do other programs look like? So that I'd be able to say, okay, do we want to be like that or not? So I could compare. And the other thing that I think about a lot because of some of the work that I do is what's needed in the workforce. So when our students leave here, if that is one thing we want to think about, then what do they need to become employed once they leave this university? And so I think that looking at those considerations in the kind of courses they're taking and being prepared to step out and get into the workforce with their background is another important piece of this that I don't feel like I have a very good handle on, so I could use more information on that as well.
Our student, I'm sorry.
Do you want to address this?
I was
or
just going
go
to say
ahead. It's fine.
that our students, the students that I work with in particular, that I've kept in touch with are all working, they all move this direction of, and it's vast. I mean, it's social media or it's more corporate communications, right? I mean, it's a very, very broad occupation that has a constantly evolving, technical requirements, I would argue, as well as, for example, just some of the, like writing, for example. So I don't for a second, I don't sort of sit here and say that, the technology is the fundamental thing. Actually, I sit here as an interdisciplinarian who says that technology and art and computer science and writing are critical. Really, that is my approach. So to be, I don't want to be cast as like a technological determinist, that solves everything. With regard to the institutions, I'll just point out briefly again that the accreditation organizations that I cited are legit, and also our comparator institutions are quite explicit with regard to that interdisciplinary, if you want to call it that, curriculum, in what they call media arts and communication programs. In EPCC made a point that the notion of media arts and communication is not irregular. It's not something that is just something that has been contrived by EOU. It actually exists in other institutions, and I provided, I did of course, some research and provided a list of 10 institutions that have variations of it: media and communications, media arts and communications, media and communication arts, right? So what's fascinating is, of course, and I think we all kind of are aware, is that over the past 20 years, that academia has really tried to deal with, so to speak, the changing that has been going on with regard to the influence of, say, just the internet technology, right? And those outcomes with regard to that have been, communications programs that emphasize technology, media, and that kind of thing. So the notion of media arts and communication at EOU falls completely in line with that, and I can provide you specific institutions, that are dealing with those subjects.
Okay. Are you going to address
Yeah,
Don's
that's your
comment
question,
as
yeah.
well? And
Yes.
then Susan, after the,
Also follow up on Karen's comments and address your question. And we have, as a communication teacher, we have a deep conviction that technological know-how is not communication. And you can have faster deliver your message. You can condense your message with a very short period of time. But communication is about negotiation, meaning, identity. It's something larger than just deliver your message. That's the reason why we want to focus on the negotiation, meaning, identity, and power-relation, not deliver the message. That's why we can include multimedia in our elective. We cannot include that in our required because that will dilute our identity. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Thank you.
Susan, and then John, did you have a comment?
I did after Susan.
I just wanted to, in response to Xiaowei there too, I think there's certainly a technical aspect to technology, but I also think that media arts encompasses a visual communication too, in terms of the impact of, setting up a splash page on a website and various ways. So there's, I think, there's also a lot more art and nuance in terms of impact and communication and how people are affected by that, and whether they cringe or are invited. But my original comment was just to say that I agree. I feel like there's so many issues. There's these technical issues about the appropriateness of curriculum, and there's to me there's still questions in terms of what constitutes the program and how is the program initiated, and as they move apart, there's comparator scenarios I could think of in our own program if we were just to decide our history's not important in our studio art major, So I do, the tenure stuff, there's just a lot here to unpack, and I would also like to take a moment just to say out loud, if nothing for my own, just to get it off my own chest, that it's in times of scarcity like this, and two, when people are being, thrown different edicts, because we've heard the same thing, simplify, simplify. I think as creative, intelligent people, most educators are thinking connections, interdisciplinary, we're seeing the whole picture and how stuff comes together. But that takes, if you're taking little points and want to see how they're all connected, each one of those points are dollar signs. Expertise is a dollar sign in some fashion there. So we've heard the same thing. Simplify, a push to. I don't know. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Is just that I think that there is some uncovering to do, and hoping that there's a new way for people for this department to communicate in how we've also, perhaps there's been some divisive, just the air that we are breathing this last year has felt divisive, and an environment of scarcity that also makes us all shrink up, and maybe shrinking isn't necessarily a solution to that. Yeah.
John, comment.
I agree with Rebecca that the issues that have been presented to the Senate and that seem to be quite in need of resolution probably are not suitable for us to resolve. What I'm struck by is that we've had departmental issues around classes and programs that have come to the Senate before, and we've had dissenting voices from faculty that wanted to speak. And we also had curriculum leadership in the forms of deans and provosts speak about the direction that we're going. This doesn't seem to have that curricular leadership involvement. It seems like the issues that are going on in your department, which I'm sure are important and very significant to the students and to you, it's like the department issues have risen to this table, and we're really not the appropriate place to. We can root for you to resolve this in a way that serves the university the best and serves as many people as possible. But it doesn't seem that we can do that. And we really need curriculum leadership from the appropriate CAST venues to give us some idea. This has come to Donna's committee, and she's brought something forward that I assume came out of the CAST and the leadership process. But we don't have any representative of how that got here other than Donna presenting it and hearing from disparate members of the department. I don't think we can go forward with this the way it is.
Is your comment in response to either Susan or?
It's to Susan and.
Because Doug also has something to say.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Do you want to go or?
Well, and I don't know the background and not very familiar with CAST programs to begin with, but it seems like the intent is to create communications major. And if that's what we want to do and there's demand for it, there's a process for doing that rather than kind of slowly changing what was 2 minors, right, and to create what is now just a pure communications major, which if we were to do that would require going to the state and getting
Just to address what you were both talking about, in the fall, we had those 11 meetings. There were 11 of them. And we asked our colleague to come and work with us and connect with us and figure out the situation. We were told that we were working on our piece, and Media Arts was working on their piece, and we proceeded ahead. And so what we have is a situation where we thought, okay, well, it'll be all right because we have the minor in media arts, which would be great. And then we have this major piece in communication, and it'll work really great together. We did not ask for the elimination of this media arts piece. We didn't want it. We didn't expect it. But then in March was like, how can I get my classes into your program? We had worked all year to create this communication program, and we do have a stack of schools that Xiaowei has been researching that have similar programs to ours also. So you can look at 20 programs here that talk about synergies of media arts and communication, and we have programs there that have communication focus with media arts in the electives. I mean, it just sort of depends on who is present at the time of the creation. There wasn't any intent to push anybody anywhere. It was simply, this is who came to the table, and this is what we created with who came to the table to create. And so now we're faced with this untenable situation where we would really like there to be student filmmakers everywhere. We would like there to be a strong media arts minor that grows into a media arts concentration. That's out of our hands. And so now this is what we're faced with. We were told by the provost, this is what you need to do in order to survive. Because there was talk about getting rid of all of it. We were told, Professor Roy was told, create a media arts program. We were told, create a communication-centric program. Put the media arts piece in the electives, it'll work together, it'll pair together really well. So, in answer to your question, no one's tried to get anybody out to do a coup, as it's been proposed that this was. It was none of that. It was 2 programs, each working with what we were told, trying to create a program that contained our expertise, and to have eventually 2 strong programs working side by side in media arts and communication. Didn't work out that way, and so now we have what we have. And I guess if this body is not going to be able to decide this, then it'll go back and wander around for a while somewhere else, and maybe it will be resolved and maybe it won't. So that's all I have to say about it.
New stuff?
I just wanted to.
Just a quick comment. It would have been nice to see this before June. I mean, this is a problem. We're done. I mean, this is it. So to try to make a decision that's this big right now is very difficult for me personally.
I think.
New information?
Well, I just wanted to reiterate and then present new information. And
Don't reiterate, jump to new information.
I oppose, again, I don't feel like we're getting the full story here because I'm being sort of, the notion of meetings and inclusion and that kind of thing is, we'll have 2 different stories on that.
Well, I have the emails here, so if you would like to see them, they're right here.
I don't.
Hang on a second. We're not getting into this kind of stuff. I want to know if we have something new to offer to
I just want to point out what the president said in a recent budget and planning meeting, and actually, it's my understanding that it was written down and presented, and the president said it should be noted that 3 of the 4 faculty in media arts and communications support the draft sustainability plan. That goes against what's being presented here right now.
John?
I don't think we can resolve this at the Senate level. We don't have the input from the appropriate deans and provosts. This time we have a he said, she said type thing. I move that we table this at this time.
Second.
Is there a second? Votes for tables go first. All those who wish to table this item, please say aye.
Aye.
All those who do not, say nay. Nay?
Nay.
1, 2, 3. The 3 nays? 4.
Hands for nays, please, remote.
Okay, so 4 nays, so the motion to table passes, and this is tabled. And it needs to be a motion to take it off the table if it's going to table, or to come off, just FYI.
And just for information, it would be helpful if the dean and the provost could bring us more information when we have a motion to take this off the table, so we have adequate room to make a decision on the EPCC motion.
Thank you. Okay. So, next
Could
item.
I apologize, but I don't, this might be out of order. Did I leave with a comment?
We're done.
Okay.
You could email out too, but in terms of this, as it's tabled, we'll be done with this conversation. Okay? So, moving forward, there are other, thank you, Donna. The other information, or this isn't information, something we sort of need to deal with, but we can also pass the buck to the next group as well. So we can kind of decide what about that. But this is the institutional board thing. I have a strong suspicion that the Senate is going to be asked as early as September, the first meeting that they have the next academic year, to provide a faculty name or 2 to the governor for the individual to have the first inaugural term on the state board, or not the state board, on the EOU institutional board. That term won't technically start until July of 2015, but the individual, the board is going to be, and it's not really convened. What is it when they meet, but they're not really meeting? Not really, yeah.
Drinks.
The drinks. It's going to be a drinking board. Because the board won't really go into effect until July, but there's going to be an attempt to create the board before then so that they could be working towards their bylaws and establishing themselves and so on and so forth. I was going to suggest, if somebody likes it, you can make a motion, and second, we can go for that. But maybe what we want to do is charge both colleges with coming up with 1 to 2 names by sometime in the first 2 weeks, when we have that first meeting, we get on contract before school starts, charge the 2 colleges for faculty names and bring those forward, unless the Senate would like to try to garner some other process. So.
Well, just the technicality, there's 3 colleges.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, colleges.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
So, I think we just need to think about this process. Do we want the Cass nomination and the Kobe nomination, or do we want to find another way that we can work on that?
And if we want to pass the buck until September and let the new Senate deal with it, next year's Senate deal with it, I'm happy to do that as well. I just want to toss it out there because I'm pretty sure that this request for names for the governor is going to happen in September. And so what I want to do is give faculty, perhaps the colleges, some time to think about who they might nominate. And so I want to make sure it's on everybody's radar. Does that make sort of sense on that? Take it back to your faculty and make sure that they know. And whoever gets nominated, the names that are nominated, it's the governor who's going to decide. So that's something else to point out. Okay. So any thoughts, comments there before I leave this one? And
I agree with you that we should kick it in September.
okay, but maybe a little conversation with our colleagues that it's coming up.
Agreed.
I can remind the deans. Okay, that's good. The other thing, the IFS nomination, if you remember, we still have 1 open spot on IFS, and Ana Cabanado is willing to serve that term. So I'm putting forward her name, and if Senate doesn't have any other nominations, we could entertain a motion to approve by acclamation.
So moved.
Seconded.
Second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Abstain? Excellent. I will let Anna know she is now an IFS senator. Woot woot. Okay. Then the fun part, and this is when our new senators get to join us. Steve, Peter, who else is new? Steve and Peter, get up here. We get to elect our next peoples for next year. Don't look so confused, John. We need to elect first our president. Let me make sure I do this right.
I'm leaving to next week. Do I vote?
Yes, we all vote because we are just a handy-dandy, friendly little group.
Okay.
We have old and new vote for this. Okay, so, well,
Business doesn't have
I know, and I have been bragging on them for a month.
Doug, you're just going to have to serve another term.
Yes. So, I wanted to be able to invite all the new senators, but I have not received them from your colleges. So, okay. So, the way we do this, we first do faculty senate president, then vice president, then secretary, then UC representative. It's all by secret ballot. So, those of you that are online and wish to be secret, I'm thinking you can just email Shonda, shampton@eou.com, if you'd like to do that. And then I promise she won't tell anybody. eou.edu, whatever I said is wrong.
Okay.
So, everybody okay with that?
Yep.
We need to nominate, yes. So, basically what we will do is we'll have nominations, and you have to receive at least 10 votes in the affirmative to win the position. So I'm going to open nominations for Faculty Senate President, and I'm going to nominate John Knut-Smart.
Good choice.
Right? Any other nominations?
I'd like to nominate Scott.
Nominate Scott McConnell. You're just going to serve, babe. It's all by voting. Any other nominations?
I'll nominate Deanna Timmerman.
Hey.
You're good at it.
I could be vice president. Just in case anybody wants.
So are you going to accept, we've had this discussion earlier in the year, are you going to accept the nomination for president for next year?
Can we turn them down?
Yeah.
Because then Scott might turn his down.
Probably.
What?
You can decline the nomination.
I think I'll turn mine down. Thank you very much, but I would, I think it's time for new blood. So Scott.
Nice being called new blood, huh?
You would be excellent.
Are you turning down your nomination? Any other nominations? Because if Scott turns it down and there's no other nominations, I'm not sure we have to pull out the secret ballots.
Good, let's do it. I will turn it.
Okay.
Would that Charles be?
Ooh, no, Charles isn't going to be
I'm
on Senate. He's at the end of his term.
Some of us are just at the end of our rope.
Literally. Okay, no other nominations? Shall then we vote for John by acclamation?
Yes.
So second is vice president.
I nominate you too.
I'll accept that one. Thank you very much. Any other nominations for vice president?
Susan?
I'm off this year.
Peter?
Nope.
Helen?
I'm at
Acclamation, yay.
Really? No more nominations? Okay, all those in favor of me, clap. Okay, now this is the next one. The secretary. Now, basically we have evolved the secretary position to really maintain the hangout conversation. So that thing.
Yeah.
So people who, this needs to be somebody who understands Google, which is not me, but I'm already vice president, so I don't have to worry about this. So, who shall we
Is
nominate?
it Teresa now? Teresa Bennett?
Teresa's doing it now.
Somebody
Do you have an online nomination?
Online, did you have a nomination?
No.
I kind of think that the person needs to be present there because they have to hook it up.
That's true.
That might help.
Remote folks would be hard for you to set up.
Unless they really understand.
So who's serving? Doug? John?
I would like to nominate Teresa again.
Okay, and in her absence, we will say that she accepts. Yes, I did say in her absence, we'll say she accepts. Okay, anybody else? Acclamation? Okay, we'll inform her of her lucky position. And then the last one is the individual for the University Council. So this needs to be an individual who has their Tuesday afternoons free, because if you're not meeting with us, you're meeting with them. However,
we rarely meet more than once a month.
Oh, so you're doing really the first, so it'd be the first and the second Tuesday. So, Peter?
No.
Rory, who is not here.
However, before he left, he told me to turn down any.
That's sneaky of him. How about, well, Steve, you're too busy. I know you are too. So, Sarah, are you off?
No. Can you tell me a little bit more about what is involved or what that
Helen, do
means?
you want to?
Basically, the rep to the council will be doing the same thing that I'm doing here at the Senate. We just take notes and go back and report what has gone on at the Senate to the council. So you would be doing the same thing from the council to the Senate. Also, to answer any questions that might come up about what has gone on in the University Council meetings.
So does that mean attending both Faculty Senate and University Council meetings?
Yes, but they're only doing them once a month as well. So it's just a couple of Tuesdays a month. Nice, cheerful environment that's supportive of one another.
Sure, I will accept the nomination.
Sarah accepted the nomination. Any others? Acclamation.
Shoot, I almost have to second for another
Okay,
nomination.
so John will be president, I'll be vice president. Teresa doesn't know it yet, but she'll be secretary, and Sarah will serve as our UC representative. So, awesome. So, other than that, and good of the order, which Charles, I think you wanted to good of the order something.
Yes, I don't know if folks saw the email that came out from, I guess, Angie Adams, announcing that course evaluations were open. You know, we've dealt with this before, and it's like something we cannot seem to make happen. It's unfair to those faculty who are going to go through evaluations that they are receiving student evaluations after grades have been posted and after final exams have been taken. In the old days, that was forbidden. I mean, you basically had to complete your course evaluations before the beginning of final exam. We've dealt with this twice now in Senate. Last
And we've asked the
month,
provost to address that.
last month, April 1st, we made a motion and unanimously passed it that we would retask the provost with this. However, Angie announced that the course evaluations are open until the end of term, June 15th.
Yep.
And I've received no response from my email. So I'm off the Senate, but I think you folks should do something about
Here,
this.
make a motion for me to write a bitchy email.
I move that Deanna writes a bitchy.
I'll second that. It's gonna happen
second.
no matter what.
Okay, all those in favor of said email, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions?
No, but I'll add to that, when we brought this up, because I was in the first Senate, God knows how long ago, the other issue is that the number of responses that we're now getting since we've gone to electronics, and this is the first year when they said, oh, no, it's not going to be a problem, has turned into a fraction. And as you all know,
Small fraction.
when it's a small fraction, it's the students that love you and the students you pissed off.
And mostly the ones you pissed off.
And those are the extremes. And so they were claiming, I think this was Yeager or some other person, that they would do some sort of audit and would see how that would stack up over time. They tried to incentivize the students by telling them to get the grades early, but I completely agree with Charles that they shouldn't be able to do it after their final exam. And we should see. I think it's terrible for all the faculty going through tenure now that have this many students speaking on their behalf. And it makes them worthless. And it should be the most important evaluative tool for tenure.
Well, they are worthless because they're not representative of student attitudes.
Yeah.
And I went through tenure this last year, and I said to the college and faculty committees that they are useless. And I used the comments as a qualitative indication of what some students felt about my teaching. And I use it as helpful information to tell which students I wasn't reaching, because I assume that I'm reaching most of my students. We can use it as that, but it can never be better than that the way it is now.
Well, and FPC is in at least year 6 of its attempt to revise this. It's astoundingly difficult to get this relatively simple form down.
Well, it should be very easy to get that data because every one of those forms you get says the number of students that responded. So you just look at the number of students that were in that class. And go, okay.
But it's obviously an area that needs a makeover. We've been trying to make it over for years. Why it hasn't happened, I don't know. But I do think junior faculty will suffer.
Yeah, I agree. Well, having served on FTC, it wasn't on our agenda.
So
The last time I was on the
those
bus,
comments
and that was 6 years ago.
Faculty Senate, we should work that meeting to address that.
I think
Well, it had been charged with it several
Alan Evans
times.
brought it up twice.
Yeah, and Jody Varn was also, but so it's been this ongoing thing. And then I think what it's been for the last 5 years with these sustainability plans and getting cut every 5 seconds, that, you know, evaluations went back burner while we were trying to destroy the institution. So.
We've been very busy.
Put it on the
I'm
back
really
burner
happy
and then
not to
burn
be
down the
president
house.
anymore. I get to talk. So, okay, I will write said email. Any other controller, Richard?
Actually, this is sort of a follow-up. If you're interested in increasing a little bit the number of responses you get from students, post a set of questions that are specific to that course and the way you did it, and tell them, you know, I'm really curious to get your feedback from this.
But those can't be used in the tenure review process.
But they get comments. The comments are transcribed.
Yeah.
And you know, it may not be used for. I'm sure it would be used for tenure and review. But if you actually want to know, if you want to get some answers, that will increase the number of answers you get because they feel like, oh, they care. But it's not like the 95% I used to get before we went to electronic. But sometimes I get 30%.
And they can be included in the portfolio. I've reviewed plenty of portfolios where they've done supplementary questionnaires.
Yeah, they transcribe. Somebody transcribes the comments.
Exactly, they don't take the place of it.
Well, and right now, the students sometimes are not even doing those evaluations out of the goodness of their heart. They're doing them because they can't get their grades. There's that delay at the end of the quarter if they did not fill out their evaluations. So.
And for some reason that stopped working, Regina. That was a suggestion. Did you hear what Regina said?
No.
It had to do with not being able to receive their grade until they had posted their faculty evaluations.
I think
And I've
that's
heard
not
that
legal.
discussed.
I don't think that.
Put in place.
It's not legal.
Yeah.
It's not legal. We can't do that.
So what?
I don't think that's quite right. The incentive was that they would get their grades earlier if they filled out those evaluations. But regardless, the problem is that we don't get the returns because they're not mandatory. And Peter's right, and we told Provost Atkinson that from the beginning, and we were told it wouldn't be a problem, and it is a problem. But that's for next year's Senate to do it.
Okay, so anything else for the good of the order? Okay, then we will adjourn, and I think, what's 4:30 plus 9? Or
4:39.
1:30 in the morning, Rebecca's time?
Where is she?
1:30, yes, it's 1:30. I'm wide awake.
Bye. Bye.
Tschüss. Ciao.
Stop broadcast.
Is this our last meeting until?
This is our last meeting until our new president calls a meeting